host, Editing DJ. Just want to give you a quick little note. I'm actually combining my episode 3 review and the Easter egg video from New Rockstars into one video. So stay tuned for both of them after this one. I had a little technical difficulties, but hope you guys enjoy. What's up, with my channel? I am DJ, a black guy. Here for the first time, hit that like button, subscribe button. Really appreciate it. So, just finished watching episode 3 of Last of Us. So I'll give my quick thoughts and opinions and a little recap of it. Been loving the show so far. This episode picks up where we left off last time after Tess dying. We are with Joel and Ellie, and he's doing a little memorial by the river, and they start walking because they're like 10 miles outside of Boston. And he's like, we need to walk up this way because I don't want you to see what's ahead. And like, why? And she keeps going. And they come across like a mass grave of people. And he starts explaining to Ellie that Federal will come around, take people to quarantine zones. And sometimes if they were full, they didn't tell people and they just end up shooting them all. They rather have dead people. Dead people can't get affected. So, but they're trying to get the Bill in Frank's place. And if you played the game, you know who they are. But it kind of flash forwards. It flashes back to 2003, and you saw a little skeleton of a mom and a baby, and we actually see the live mom and baby, and they're being rounded up to be taken away to quarantine camp. But we all know what happened to them. But we end up seeing Bill down in his bunker watching all this go down. And once the town is evacuated, he takes over the town. He puts up fences, he puts up booby traps. He ready to go to the store. He's a prepper, so he has everything set up and he's ready to go. And then fast forward a little bit, he has a trip at one of his traps, and there's a guy in there by the name of Frank, who he meets. Frank tells him that he's trying to get to. He's coming from Baltimore. Baltimore wiped out, trying to get to Boston. At first, Bill's kind of hesitant about this guy, like keep on going, but the guy's like, "Man, I just need a shower. I just need some food, and I'll be out of the way." They end up. He lets them in. He cooks some dinner, a shower. Um, Come to find out, it's kind of hinted towards in the game that they were a couple. This show cements that idea that they're a couple. This is where the show. I know people are going to be controversial about it because this is drastically different from the video game. But in my opinion, we get a full backstory of the whole Frank situation, especially Bill. But we fast forward, we see how they met Tess and Joel, and all the way up forward to where they're older and they're basically Frank is ill for some reason. Don't know why. Uh, and they end up doing self deletion together. Throughout, it's all romantic and everything, and so. But that's a quick little run cap. Watch the show yourself. Now, I will say, like I said before, drastically different from the game. Um, in the game, Ellie and Joel actually meet Frank because they're in the town and they have to dodge all the booby traps and everything. They end up meeting Frank, and then they go from there, and then they get the truck and all that stuff. But in this one, Ellie and Joel never meet Frank. They're dead before they even get there. If you remember in the episode 1, they were playing 80s music. That was Frank and Tessa's code to know about danger and what's going on. So they were playing that because at the end when Ellie and Joel finally get to Frank's place, um, there's a note and everything explaining all this stuff that they committed self deletion. And there's a moment in that letter where Ellie's reading it and he's like, Joel, me and you are alike. We gotta protect the ones we love, so I'm leaving you all my guns and weapons so you can protect Tess. And obviously Tess is dead, and that kind of is emotional. Um, but yeah, they drastically changed the episode from the game. I wish they would had let them meet Joel. Because I think that's my favorite level of the game, and some of the banter between Ellie and Bill, I mean, are is good. 'Cause I think in the game, if I remember correctly, Frank was already dead when they got there. He hung himself, I believe. I have to go. It's been so long since I played that game, but um, yeah. But overall, I still enjoyed the episode. I will say, I'm disappointed that we didn't get the interaction of them actually meeting Bill. But there was some hell of an acting in this show. I cannot think of his name. Nick Osman, guy from Parks and Rec, one who played Bill, and the guy who played Frank. Don't know his name, but they had some good scenes together. I mean, the emotion and everything. Mine's the whole gay lover stuff. I mean, that doesn't bother me. But because it was hinted at during the game that they were a couple, but it was never confirmed. But this was just we got a full backstory of Bill. He wasn't as hard as he was in the game. Maybe at the beginning, he was more. Bill was more like Bill before he met Frank, like all the prepper stuff and everything. But I'm just kind of going on a tangent now. But again, I enjoyed the episode. It wasn't my favorite episode, but it's still a good episode. And even though they changed it, it still kind of flows together for the most part. So if you're a casual watcher, you wouldn't even know a difference, and I think you would still enjoy the show. So again, I know people are gonna be talking about the whole gay lovers, gay scenes, and all that stuff they had in there. Um, didn't bother me that much. Kind of saw that coming a mile away. I will say though, I'm still 50-50 on this version of Ellie. She's not like her in the game, so I'm still kind of just making my decision on her. But nonetheless, I enjoyed the episode. Can't wait for next week. Let me know, guys, down below if you've been watching the show. What do you guys think? If you played the games, you think about the whole them doing the whole gay stuff and everything? Because the show was basically the Bill and Frank show with a tiny bit of Joel and Ellie splash in the beginning and end. Look at episode, enjoyed it, and also R.I.P. to Annie Warshik Singh, the one that played Tess in uh game. She died a couple days ago. Tragic loss for her. She had a husband, and 3 kids, so prayers go out to them. But again, thanks for watching, guys. Next one. What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. I am DJ A. Talking Black Guy. And for the first time, hit that like button, subscribe button. So we're back with New Rock Stars. We're watching the breakdown for episode 3 of Last of Us. All the Easter eggs, stuff that we missed. Again, I enjoyed the episode. It was drastically different than the video game, but still, I enjoyed the episode. So let's see what I missed in this one, because obviously they changed it, so I'm probably gonna miss some of the detail that they reference and everything. Because again, love the game, but it's been a while since I played the game, so I'm not as fresh on the events during the game. So this is a good refresher. But without further ado, let's watch Mr. Eric Voss break it down for us. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Last of Us Episode 3, Long, Long Time. This emotional episode titled after the 1970 Linda Ronstadt song that breaks our hearts again, and hopefully now gets the Stranger Things running up that hill treatment. I'm going to break down why this song was especially perfect, giving Frank's song code, and just so many other interesting details that you might have missed from this episode. It's exactly the kind of thing that I love to break down, because it's not like we're looking for Easter eggs. It's just like little interesting choices in the writing and the acting and the directing that make this such a rewarding storytelling experience. And thank you to Boxu.
I really liked him on Parks and Rec.
Tasty offerings. Last episode of The Last of Us started and ended with an oral transmission of the cordyceps fungus, a kiss of death for Tess that serves as a grim reflection of the writer's theme of the danger of love. And the opening credits echo that, with a vision of a human face, mouth open, formed by this fungus. Joel's knuckles are still bloody from beating that soldier in episode 1, despite him telling Tess at the top of last episode that it would heal quickly. We see him stacking rocks, which some hikers do to mark trails, some to practice mindfulness, but is also some ancient culture's way of marking graves.
So
right now, this is the best Joel can really do to give Tess a funeral, because Joel and Ellie are still not really able to communicate about it.
Look, I've been thinking about...
I don't want your sorries.
I wasn't going to say I'm sorry. I was going to say that I've been thinking about what happened. Nobody made you or Tess take me.
Yeah, it's interesting how Joel doesn't really know Ellie as well as he assumes he does. Ellie actually looked way more pissed off at Joel. She's blaming him for Tess's death. Ellie asks about the scar on Joel's head.
Someone shot at me and missed.
See, that's cool. Shoot back?
Yeah.
You get him?
No, I missed too. It happens more often than you think.
Now, actually, in the game, Joel has a scar on the bridge of his nose, which is a
Yeah.
very subtle detail from the night Sarah was shot. He doesn't have a scar on his nose before, but he actually incurs this injury during this attack and has to carry this reminder of his daughter's death with him on his face from here forward. But in the show, I assume this scar on his cheek is from some other incident. He definitely didn't have it in that 2010 garden party that they had with Bill and Frank. So the sign in front of the Cumberland Farms has had a few letters dropped, and I want to say the top word was children, and then beneath something about rations, maybe? I don't know, maybe with
Oh.
the panic over flour, rations were only given to families with children in those few days. Inside, Ellie finds a Mortal Kombat 2 game box.
You ever play this
Game
one?
box, arcade machine,
I
game
friend
box.
knew everything about this.
You call it a game
There's
box.
this one character named Melina who takes off her mask and she has monster teeth and then she swallows you whole and barfs out your bones.
She's referring to Melina's fatality move, which of course was the kiss of death. A kiss of death is also how the cordyceps is
Ugh.
transmitted.
It's okay, you know
Ellie
that
asks,
scene.
Is there anything bad in here?
Just you.
Huh. Getting funnier.
Yeah, Joel's making a callback to last episode in the supercuts.
There's not gonna be anything bad in here?
Just you.
Oh, funny.
It's a bit of a dad joke, but it's also a lesson from Joel. The natural threats we face are unfeeling and amoral. It's only really humanity that has the capacity for evil. Ellie finds a box of tampons and this half-buried stalker. Now, just a reminder, runners are the early stages of the infected.
Yep.
Stalkers
Talking
are the
about in between,
half-mushroom
yeah.
who are under a year of infected, and then beyond that are the clickers. They're the blind, fully covered heads who are over a year of being infected. We will meet stages beyond that as we go.
Yeah.
And I love this shot, this close-up. We can really see the prosthetic
detail,
makeup
yeah.
of Pat Fode, who also worked on Chernobyl, House of the Dragon, and Stranger Things. It just makes
Wow.
this fungal outgrowth look even more vivid than the clickers are from a distance. This is gross, but you can see beads of pus on the cheek and then
Yeah.
chunks of flesh on the stalks that are growing out of the head. That yellow infected eye continues to follow Ellie's knife, so for now the fungus is still puppeting the host optic nerve. But Ellie is testing to see if there is a soul inside, recalling her question last week to Joel.
Was it hard?
Hard. Yeah.
Like knowing they were people once?
Sometimes.
Joel stashes his rifle.
Not much ammo out there for this thing. Makes it mostly useless.
Well, if you're just gonna leave it there.
No.
Solid practical logic here. As in the gameplay, if your weapon runs out of ammo, it's useless.
Yeah.
And for Joel's case here, it would be extra weight and something he could lose that might be weaponized against him in the future. Ellie asks how the infection started.
How did it even start? If you have to get bit to be infected, then who bit the first person?
Like who came first, chicken or the
Is
egg?
it a monkey? I bet it was a monkey.
Yeah, I love this because it's kind of a reference to the movie 28 Days Later, where the outbreak came from infected chimps, and that movie came out in June 2003.
Love that
It would have
movie.
been the most recent major zombie movie before Outbreak Day, so naturally there would be
Love
some
that
monkey
movie.
theory that would have made it into the urban myths that Ellie knows. And Joel further confirms the flour theory that I discussed back in week
Yep.
1.
Some of it got into the food supply. Probably a basic ingredient like flour, sugar, bread, cereal, pancake mix.
Now, I thought Joel was joking around about being on Atkins, but if he really was avoiding carbs, that would explain why he didn't get infected. And yes, that pause on pancake mix, Joel was remembering Sarah trying to make him pancakes on his
yeah.
birthday. They pass a mass grave of people that Fedra force evac and then killed when there wasn't enough room in a QZ. And we linger on the remains of a parent and their child, framed with Joel, the parent figure, with Ellie, the child figure, in the background. Now, this is incredibly morbid, but artistically, I really appreciate the transition on the clothes this family was last wearing, flashing back 20
Yeah.
years earlier. This mass grave is a fate far worse than any in the
I
infected.
thought they were
if
gonna
you
show
ask
it, like,
me,
them get
who
massacred,
One
but-
could argue were overtaken by nature to grow into something monstrous, but also somewhat beautiful. Meet Bill, Nick Offerman, who watches all this going down from his survivalist basement.
Offerman, that was the last name.
you New World Order jackboot fucks.
New World Order was a globalist conspiracy theory that grew in popularity during the 90s and early 2000s, an idea that someone like Bill would totally ascribe to. Bill's computer uses Windows 2000, even though Windows XP would have totally been around in 2003. Just
Yeah.
makes sense that Bill wouldn't want to upgrade the OS because that's how they track you. Also, his Guns and
Oh,
Ammo
XP.
magazine is actually the issue from earlier the year, February 2003.
Oh, wow.
The
That's-
Fedra evac notice was put in front of the town's Civil War memorial statue of Abraham Lincoln, another example of how all of US history, all of human history, was overshadowed by this apocalyptic event. Bill's bunker includes guns, gun magazines, sulfuric acid, and the like, but
A question,
as he
how
rises
could
to the
the
ground
Fedra
level,
take
right
over?
away, we see a surprisingly stocked wine rack. Just an early sign that Bill has somewhat more cultured taste than you'd expect from a stereotypical survivalist.
I
At the
mean,
gas
he
station,
had
Bill
all
punches
the
highest grade of
things
fuel because
rated.
who cares? Though notice it still only brings up to $1.19 per
Oh my
gallon.
God.
Oh my
I
God,
realized that, the good old
2003.
days.
He loots a Home Depot. A scene that feels like the reason Nick Offerman was cast in this role after he played Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec.
Hi there. Is there a project you're working on?
I'm saying.
I know more than you.
All right.
But while Ron probably would have looted some scotch from the liquor store, Bill loots some Caymus Cabernet from Napa Valley. This town has a white church in the background, which in the games is where Bill holes up as his home. But in the show, he stays in the house. This episode gives Bill and Frank a happier relationship, unlike the game, where by the time Joel and Ellie catch up with Bill, Frank is already dead, and it was implied they ended on bitter terms. Had the show versions of Bill and Frank follow that path, maybe Bill would have continued to follow his more paranoid tendencies and ended up in the church. 4 years after this, Bill listens to Cream's White Room, which is a song about an empty apartment, because despite Bill building this fortress, his home is still empty.
Still alone,
Bill's
yeah.
basement has some banners up. Don't tread on me, join or die. Join or die was Benjamin Franklin's political cartoon encouraging the American colonies to unite against the British, which is ironic for a loner like Bill, but exactly the mindset he'll be following by joining with Frank. You can either connect with another human or die alone. Now notice that Bill is actually welding something. This is the modded buzzsaw with a pipe that we later see in action when the Raiders
I didn't
attack.
notice
The
that.
buzzsaw releases the sparks, and then those sparks ignite the gas that blows out the pipe to produce
That was
a
pretty
flamethrower.
cool.
As Bill goes to check the hole that Frank fell into, the control box for the electric fence has been fused to speed limit signs. Just like how Bill has taken everything and repurposed it into something else. But important detail here, notice 4 years after setting up this fence, vines are starting to grow in the barbed wire. Just a few years in, and nature is already starting to make it difficult to maintain security. Bill checks to see if Frank is infected.
How'd you get that?
Yeah, a really good question that this episode doesn't answer.
Yeah,
This
how do you
is
get a scanner?
Fedra invention that they wouldn't have invented until at least sometime into the pandemic, meaning Bill would have either had to have killed a Fedra soldier to do this, or found it among some dead Fedra soldiers on some raid far beyond Lincoln. I think Bill might have had to kill someone. So Frank is played by Murray Bartlett, who you might know as Armand, the concierge from White Lotus Season 1, and Bill tells him,
If I
Never
feed
seen White
you,
Lotus.
Then every bum you talk to about it is gonna show up here looking for a free lunch. And this is not an Arby's.
Arby's didn't have free lunch. It was a restaurant.
I think this hilarious response is the moment that Bill realizes Frank is smart and he at least likes him. Now notice how Frank runs his finger through the dust on Bill's mantle, discovering a purpose for himself here in this home. When Bill enters with the meals, his eyes immediately dart over to that mantle. He's acutely aware of the very first different detail of this room that he's entered.
He
every
hated
day
his
for
things
the
being
past 3
touched.
years, and for the first time in this pandemic, he is feeling self-conscious. Bill serves Frank this amazing meal on
That
fine
lamb?
china. He uses chargers.
A man who knows to pair rabbit with a Beaujolais.
I know I don't seem like the type.
No, you do.
Yes, Frank is letting Bill know that he sees him, and it's okay. So on the piano, Frank plays Linda Ronstadt's Long, Long Time, but he plays too fast.
Oh, that's the name of the
Maybe
episode.
intentionally to
Okay.
bait Bill into playing it correctly? I don't know. I just love this as a way of showing how Frank moves fast. He is Frank. He gets right to it, whereas Bill wants to take things slow. Both these men are romantics, just moving at different speeds, and fortunately, have been able to find each other here at the end of the world.
And I think I'm gonna love you for a long
Long time.
time.
Now, the speaker of the song is tired of everyone telling them that they'll find love eventually, and they just accept the fate of loving someone who will never love them back and having to live with the wounds of heartbreak. Now, it is 2007 in this scene, but Massachusetts back in September 2003 on Outbreak Day would have been just 2 months before the Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled that the state was required to legalize same-sex marriage, leading Massachusetts to become the first U.S. state to recognize gay marriage
wow.
in the following May in 2004. So, on Outbreak Day, Bill was right on the cusp of being able to live closer to the way that he wanted to. Long, Long Time is a 1970s song performed by Linda Ronstadt, but the words were written by Gary White, whom Ronstadt saw at a show in 1969. So, going by Frank's radio code, this song was written by a musician in the decade of the 60s, the 60s decade meaning nothing is in, but when the song's words were paired with and immortalized by just the right voice, that of Linda Ronstadt, it became a 70s song, and the 70s decade means new stock. So Linda and Frank were the new stock. We actually learned later this episode that the code was Frank's idea.
Oh, and I had this idea that we should use codes for the radio in case anyone's listening.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like, I was thinking, like, the decades, like 80s trouble.
Look, you got ordered. So after they kiss, Frank asks,
What's your name?
and it's just so sweet that Frank sheds a tear here, as this is such an emotional catharsis for both these men. Neither of them thought they'd ever have
Yeah,
a
I mean,
chance like
this
this.
is
And
going to be
it's
very
just great that he loves
controversial.
this man so
I'm
much, despite
pretty
not
sure
even
people a
knowing
lot
his name,
hate
because
behind
Bill
this.
never told him his name. So we jump cut from their sex to...
Oh yeah, I caught that. They didn't know each other's name.
Come on! Yeah, this is the Bill and Frank players of the game expected. As I
Yeah.
said, in the game, Frank gets sick of Bill's paranoia and leaves him. He actually tries to leave the town of Lincoln, but he gets swarmed by infected, he gets bitten, and he hangs himself. leaving
That's
a
what I
suicide
remember.
note for Bill telling him that he'd rather be dead than spend another day with him. So since they clearly had a lot of bad days in the game, it's good that we get to see at least one bad day here. They're fighting because Frank wants to tidy up the whole neighborhood so that they're not just surviving, they're actually living.
Paying attention to things.
I get it.
It's how we show love.
Like I said, this episode was
This is my
drastically
street,
different,
too.
so it was
Let me love it the
basically
way I want to.
new to me
Remember,
too.
Frank had Bill take a shower before they made love, and Frank will repeat this definition of love to Bill when they're old men.
Do you love me?
Yes.
Then love me the way I want you to.
So they host this wonderful garden party with Joel and Tess, and now you can
This
see
was
that
funny.
the yard has been mowed and all the surrounding houses have been painted with flags raised. It feels like a regular neighborhood. The two grunters of the pair talk to each other.
I understand. If mine brought strangers into our situation, I wouldn't be happy.
He couldn't
with it.
even say girlfriend.
It's so sad. Joel never identified what Tess was to him, but even Bill tracked that because this comes back later. Now, in the game, Tess was the one who kept contact with Bill and Frank. Joel never went to the town, and he didn't even meet Bill until Ellie was with him. Joel notices
Yeah.
that the fence needs repairing, and he promises to hook Bill up with some barbed wire.
Last you the rest of your life. Lives.
Yeah, a little adjustment from Joel, indicating to Bill that he can see what he and Frank mean to each other, in case Bill was trying to hide it. And as Frank says, paying attention to things is how we show love. When the Raiders attack at night, Frank wakes up to see the battle underway already. Bill didn't want to wake up Frank because he didn't want him to join him in the shootout. One wonders how many nights Bill might have kept watch outside while Frank slept. Bill only gets shot when he turns around to tell Frank to go back
Yeah, I
inside.
know. I
And he
saw that
gets
one
hit in
coming,
the lower
too.
back, but bleeds out the front.
I got hit in the
That was an
leg.
exit wound, and there's no bullet to remove, fortunately. Time jumps ahead again to the end of their lives in 2023. Notice the neighboring houses aren't as nice anymore because both men are older, especially Frank, who would have been the one of the two spending more time to clean everything up. And now
I wish
he's
they
in a
would have said
wheelchair.
what he
You
was
see
sick,
Frank's
though.
paintings, including one of Joel in his brown jacket. Now remember, Bill and Frank's first meal at the dining table had them at opposite ends of the table, but now they sit right next to each other. An inverse of the famous marriage montage in Citizen Kane, where Kane and his wife sit farther and farther away from each other over time. Also in their bedroom, there's a lovely painting of Bill adorning the wall on his side of the bed, but on the next morning, there's a momentarily scary jump cut to Bill waking up with Frank out of focus in the wheelchair.
Yeah,
in
that
the
was kinda
background.
scary.
It reminds us of Ms. Adler
Yeah.
back in the first episode. Is Frank infected? Oh god, oh god. But no, it's fine. But this is Frank's biggest fear, to become too old and too frail to stop the cordyceps from finding his way to him. Frank has terminal cancer now, and so he wants
Oh,
his life
so
to
it's
end. And
cancer.
he says,
I'm not going to give you the every day was a wonderful gift from God speech. I've had a lot of bad days. I've had bad days with you, too. But I've had more good days with you than with anyone else.
yeah, again, I just love this change that we get to see them grow old together.
That's some-
Because it's not
some
like
good
the game has
ass
ever
acting,
seen
I
this
will
couple
say, in these
together. You're
scenes.
just seeing how the relationship ended. But this adaptation invites us to imagine their mixed bag of a life together as half full instead of half empty, which is important. We need reasons to root for humanity's survival on this show. Their final sunset includes a shot of the hole where Bill
met,
first
yep.
found Frank, followed by that strawberry plant from that really happy memory. They exchange wedding rings by the piano where they shared their first kiss, and Bill recreates the first meal he ever cooked for them, grilled
I
rabbit,
that.
the same exact label of
Oh,
Beaujolais.
rabbit?
He even rotates the plate the same way on the charger as he did before in the very first meal they had. Now, we don't see him open the second bottle at the end of the meal, showing how Bill has already drugged it so that he will die too. Bill tells Frank,
This isn't the tragic suicide at the end of the play. I'm old. I'm satisfied. And you were my purpose.
now, the tragic suicide at the end of the play is not a Romeo and Juliet reference. Craig Mazin is actually paying homage to Mark Crowley's 1968 play, The Boys in the Band,
Never
which
heard
has
of
a
it.
very similar line. It's meant to dispel the stereotype that all gay love stories have to end in tragic suicides. That play's title is actually a nod to A Star is Born, which of course is another suicide ending. And they got the title from the scene where James Mason tells Judy Garland, "You're singing for yourself and the boys in the band." And as Bill wheels him off to bed, the candles stay lit. When Joel and Ellie arrive a few weeks later, notice how that wax has melted down, meaning those candles continue to burn. The interior lights all remain on as well, because obviously they didn't ever turn them off. Also, dust has collected on the silverware, the house reverting back to
How
its
long
dusty
was it
state
before they
as it
got
was
there, I
when
wonder?
Frank first ran his finger along that mantle. Now, Joel tries to get into their bedroom, but the breeze slams the front door shut, distracting him and stopping him from forcing his way in. Some force was keeping Joel from disturbing the grave accidentally, but we later learn that force was Bill having left the window open. That's what caused the air pressure in the house to cause his draft to go through and pull the door shut to keep the grave a sacred place. In his letter, Bill has left Joel with some parting wisdom, and it's read by Ellie.
I used to
Good
hate
letter.
the world, and I was happy when everyone died. But I was wrong. because there was one person worth saving. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do.
Yeah, Ellie stops before reading the end, but Joel
Yeah.
grabs the letter, and if you look closely, you
That
can
was
see
a
what
good
he
scene.
wrote. Use them to keep Tess safe. And if you and she decide you've something, I recommend pairing something. Yeah, he's ending this letter by saying he hopes Joel and Tess could finally confess their love to each other, and Bill left him with a wine pairing option like what he used to woo Frank.
Aw.
It's so sad. Now, we learned that the reason the 80s music played was because it was automatically set
Yeah.
to if it wasn't reset in a few weeks, and Ellie finds the gun that Frank kept in his writing desk. I wonder if this is a gun that Bill wasn't even aware of. Ellie wears this red shirt now. This is the same red shirt that Ellie is most often seen wearing in part 1 of the game.
Yep.
And I like how with this and the gun she carries, she is in a way symbolically activated as a sort of playable character. Or at least at some point in the future, will be playable. Joel has to teach Ellie what a seatbelt is because this is a girl
That
who's
was
blown away
funny.
by the concept of airplanes.
Yeah.
So yeah, a working truck must be
It
like
makes
a
sense, though.
spaceship
She
to
was
her.
born
And Ellie
after
plays
everything.
the set of Linda Ronstadt's Long Long Time, which is how we close the episode, as the camera retreats back through Bill and Frank's open bedroom window from their body's perspective as they watch them go. Now, this shot of the open window with the breeze brushing the curtains was actually an intentional nod to the menu screen of the game, the press any button screen.
Oh, I
And
didn't
the
think about
producers
that.
actually considered opening every episode with an open window, where HBO Max users could press play on a different window every episode to begin it. They ended up scrapping that idea, but we get that concept.
I didn't even
here,
think
with
about
Frank's
that. Oh.
painting of Bill on the wall right above some dead flowers. And I just love that we leave Bill and Frank with the window open so their souls are free to go. Had these two men not found each other, they both would have died alone in the darkness underground, like that underground infected that Ellie stabs this episode. Corpses overtaken by the fungus without souls. Frank would have been in the pit. Bill would have been in his bunker, where the only window was Windows 2000. And so while this series as a whole is a statement of love's destructive
They keep
power,
showing that kiss. I hate that
and lead
kiss.
Bill to make Frank's suicide a double suicide, there remains an undeniable beauty to that destructive love. And the love that Bill was able to feel for Frank was so powerful that it inspires Joel to save Ellie. Hey, a reminder to subscribe to The Deep Dive and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EABoss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe.
Another good breakdown by Mr. Eric Ross from the Rockstars. Again, this episode was drastic from the game, but still enjoyed it. There wasn't that many Easter eggs because it was so different from the show, but still good point of views and breakdowns and everything. Like I said, I'm enjoying the show. I know people are going to talk about this episode because of the whole gay thing. That doesn't bother me that much. I wish they would have kind of had it where they met Bill, but it is what it is. You know, they had their liberties. Still think the show is very good. Like I said, if you are new to this show or you never played a game, I think you're going to enjoy it regardless. And I'm not like a super fan. I love the game and stuff like that, but I'm still loving the show. But let me know down below what you guys think. If you've been watching the show, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Until next time, guys, I'll see you when I see you.